1.1. Point one. Point one. Point one.
Part of the planet.
Our sector.
I'm like rushing to get ready because I'm not used to this time frame, but I like it. It was fun to have like a morning thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
So
why not? Get up and at 'em.
We also are bringing in Nadia from Europe, so we want to honor her time constraints as well. And thank you, Danielle, for updating the links there so that everyone can follow Nadia. Also, you know, shout out to her Twitch stream, but also like on the other platforms that she's more active on right now, which we'll get to talk about. Welcome in, Darukan. How's it going? It's been a minute.
Hey.
I'm going to get the call pulled up so that we can bring Nadia on and have a fun little chat here today. And it's already March.
Having a little
Can
tea.
everyone believe it is March? Can we take a minute just to take a moment of silence for it being March already?
You know, taking a break from the wine for once.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be funny if we were like, we're still doing wine?
And having tea instead.
Having like a tea that you would normally have at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, but having it now.
Yeah, it's great.
I'm excited.
It's a nice treat.
Okay. Let's make sure our transmission is still transmitting properly to all the channels. And Nadia, we are about to bring you on to this live stream, to this adventurous experience. Let's do that. And I think you're live. Welcome in.
Hola.
Hello.
I'm checking with the chat to make sure everyone can hear us and see us and everything.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. We were talking about how we're having tea today because we're doing an earlier stream time when we normally have
Nice.
wine and we do it at like happy hour. So
Oh, really?
they're saying like we know you still have something in those cups.
I mean, I'm that kind of person,
That's true. You like an Irish coffee.
but I don't have
I
that
don't
going
know.
on today.
Anyway, welcome in. Thank you for joining us on what we call Synth Friends, where we talk to people we only know from the internet, but try to have a more, real one-on-one conversation. And we let the chat ask questions and kind of join in with the fun and the conversation and kind of see where it goes. Kind of like being an experimental electronic musician. Sometimes
Exactly.
you're just following the sound and letting the song, tell you what it wants it to be.
Totally. Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. That's really kind. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the chat.
Yes, thank you so much. And I did want to point out that we do have a shout out here for your Twitch stream channel, which would be most like relevant to anyone here. But we were chatting earlier that maybe that's not the best place. So what would be the best place for people to, follow you? I think I have like Instagram and SoundCloud.
I think it's Instagram. So like, yeah, as I'm not that often on Twitch anymore, but like I am always on Instagram. So
Okay, sweet.
it's like too much hooked.
Ah, gosh,
Yeah,
no one here can relate to that.
yeah, exactly.
So, I do always like to say, we talk about like synth origin stories. So we use the word synth to sort of like be an umbrella for all the things, I'm sure. You would understand that. And we're just curious, like, was there something early on in your life that you remember that drew you into electronic music or synths themselves, the hardware, all the things, all the magic?
Right. So, I think it's actually funny because I've been thinking about it more and more. Like, what like from what I was so inspired by yeah, like being an electronic musician or what was that? But I think from young of like when I was really young. So my dad was always he was into like the chips. So the company he worked was in chips and for big what is LED screens and
Oh.
those screens behind you too, and you had those big walls of screens. And I think from that point we were already into gadgets, and he always came home with the new gadgets at home, and I always was hearing sound. So I think, yeah, so I have an absolute hearing. That's how, I don't know if that's the same word in English, but I can see and hear tones, and I can see colors with it. It's a bit weird, but
Oh no, we talk about that stuff all the time.
okay, cool.
Yeah. You're in good
Synesthesia?
company here.
Isn't that
Oh,
called
that's the word.
synesthesia?
Yeah, I think that's the word. Yeah,
That is one
exactly.
of the words I've heard to describe it. It sounds like it almost is like more than just like you see a color for a sound, but like pitch, but you have perfect pitch as well.
Yeah, exactly. And also like the volumes and yeah, like yeah, it's basically something I had already. And also with lyrics, I never hear lyrics. I always hear melodies and tones.
Mm.
So and I think like I've heard that now from my partner as well. He has that as well. And I never heard that before, or that someone just said it. But anyway, um yeah, so I was brought up with that stuff. So I think that was already, it made me sort of yeah, like not with music really. So my dad and my mom, they were really, they listened a lot of music, of course, but it was not, no one was playing an instrument or so. So I think
Mm.
one day I saw a keyboard at a friend's place, and I looked at it and I was like, oh my goodness. I think this, you have sometimes those images, you collect them and you're like, wow, this, I don't know what it is, but I feel really attracted to it.
Oh
Um,
yes.
yeah. So I think it started all a bit later. So I was a raver, and then later on I thought like, why there is more behind music than we actually know. So
Mm.
we
Oh
dance there
yes.
all, and yeah, what is it behind the bass line, what is it, the kick, what is, so yeah, I was diving into it when I was 18 or 19, and then I started really yeah, like diving into gear, and it was really natural, sort of like it was already decided that this was something
Mm.
I would do. So yeah.
What kind of music were you into once you like? What was your favorite from the rave scene, like rave days? Um,
Oh, that's a good question.
because
So
everything
I
was
was,
so genrefied by the
That's true.
time it got to parties, right?
yes, it was. So there were multiple streams of music that I was listening to. So yeah, like the 90s, it's coming back right now, all that
Oh,
music
that's
from
true.
that time. So for me, it's sort of like, oh, I already had that, or I become old. Maybe that's it. But like,
We don't know either. It's all a blur.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, I think like, the underworld and yeah, but also on the other hand, I was listening to also Kraftwerk and Aphex Twin and Boards of Canada. So it was a bit like very UK kind of vibe I was always in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I still
Oh, yeah.
am, like
Yeah, we can
still
relate to
the,
that as well.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I also went to raves and stuff, and I got into UK dance music, specifically when I moved to Atlanta when I was like 18, and there was a pretty good scene for it in Atlanta, Georgia. Um,
Ah, oh, that's
and
interesting.
Mm.
from there, I got into like dirty break beats
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
from the UK, like Botch It and Scarper and uh, Thursday Club records, that kind of stuff. I don't know if you're
That's
familiar with
deep.
any of
That's
that.
deep.
Yeah, that's pretty deep.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of a different stuff that I was
Hmm.
listening to, but like, yeah, I think there was so much happening in that time, and I feel like, yeah, it's such a big inspiration, I think, for still like maybe for you guys as well, what you make and
Oh,
like the
yeah.
electron and the devices you use, it has that kind of, IDM kind of sound, or yeah, it's a little bit more snappy, I would say.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Is that I would say when I have been listening to your music, that
Mm,
the influences that I would hear the most would be like from IDM, but also from the perspective of like not really being held by genre.
mm. Yeah, it's for me still hard, or so, because people are like, oh, what is the music you love the most, or something, and I
Mm-hmm.
I can't say a specific thing, because I feel like everything in music has a sort of a heartbeat, like everything works in a sort of way that we feel and we relate to, and
Mm-hmm.
why would we exclude it or put it into brackets or like into boxes, and
Oh, yeah.
um it's just really nice to have that freedom in music, and yeah, and it makes it also hard, right? So it also sometimes is hard for people to put me into a, like, oh, we can book Nadia for techno or what, or experimental, or it's sometimes really hard, but in a way I'm like, yeah, that's just what I want to do, I guess. And I don't know if you guys have that as well, like,
Oh, for
yeah.
sure.
Literally, like that, we've had that exact
Yeah,
conversation, and
it's a very common
as
conversation
much as
around here.
I asked the question, like about genres,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I
It's a
also
trap.
yeah, because I don't have that going on for myself.
Mm,
Like I
yeah.
like we still struggle in that department,
Ah.
to define like what we're doing, and we have
But
Why
like,
would
what?
you, what is the struggle for you guys? What is something that you feel like, oh, this is just, yeah, why is that? Why do you struggle with that?
I love that question. Oh my goodness. Wasn't expecting to be asked the questions here. I like it. Putting me on my toes. Yeah, I think because we're always trying to figure out like what matters the most. Not necessarily like we struggle with genre, but more with like what is important about genre and what is important about communicating that, and like what in different spaces it means different things. So you're always having
Mhm.
to
Mm.
think about defining yourself for a way to have connections with other people. So
Yeah.
if there is like an event we'd want to play, we think about it from the standpoint of what the event is and less about like, oh, we do this, so fill us in these slots.
Right. Yeah.
Which can be take a little bit more like thought process and explanation than if we were just like, we're techno DJs, book us for, you know what I mean? This
Yeah,
specific
exactly.
room and this specific
Yeah.
time.
I think I just have a problem when it comes to music committing, you know, like I
Commitment
I want
issues.
to I want to be able to make, you know, whatever kind of beat is in my head, and I've listened to a shit ton of music at this point, and you know, I never know what's going to come out. And I want to have
Yeah.
that freedom, you know, like I want to be able
Yeah.
to dance around and have, you know, whatever
Yeah.
amalgamation of techno, jungle, you know, breakbeat, whatever you want to call it, you know, like
Yeah.
comes out, you know, then that's what comes out. And
So
that's
maybe then it's not a struggle. Maybe
I don't
it's
think
just what
so.
it is.
it's
It's
just that I
just
want to
actually what you
be
want to do.
allowed to be all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, there's really
Yeah.
And
there's really nothing saying you can't.
I don't grant myself that.
Yeah. Oh, this is
Permission.
this is personal.
Oh, it's a
internal
therapy
struggles.
session
Yes,
now.
Yeah.
there it
Welcome
is.
to a therapy session. Yeah, exactly.
I have one of those later today, so this is
That's
a double.
perfect.
It's a double feature.
You have opened some
It
doors
can be.
here.
You know, sometimes that is like, you know, that's also what music teaches us, right? It teaches a lot about ourselves and about our freedom and what we think of ourselves. And it's the same with like streaming, right? Or streaming, you know, there's a lot of feedback you get directly from people who you
Yeah.
are, and you're gonna doubt yourself, like, oh shit, did I say something wrong? Or but it doesn't all matter. It really doesn't matter. It's actually really fun in a way because you can see different perspectives and yeah.
Yes. We were having this conversation literally last night, so I'm just having so much fun, you know, getting to build on these things we were thinking about in the sense of like, we do a lot of study. Oh, no, do I really want to do this? Let me think if I really want to go there because I want to make sure we talk about your music. But analyzing like, what is it that we connect with that's the most, I don't know, want to say like human, but the most like experiential of this thing we're doing here on this planet, right? When people are being perceived, like whether it's on streaming or on a TV show or something like that, when they're supposed to be like being real.
Yeah.
So I'm always examining that, and I think it's because I'm trying to figure out how I feel about it for myself, but I'm watching it through analyzing how other people's journeys have evolved through being public with their, whether they're making music or what have you.
Story.
Yeah. So just to say that it's been really exciting to think about that in this era that we're in, where we are trying to think about like, where do we want to present ourselves, or where do we want to interact with people, and to what extent.
Yeah, it is. It is really important, I think. But I don't know. From my experiences, I just know like it just doesn't matter. I think
Yes,
the
I
the,
love
the
that.
most
That was really the point, is what we were talking about last night, was I think in the end it really doesn't matter. Because there's something being, everything's always being like inferred or interpreted. So even when you're having an experience, you have no idea the like fractalization of that perception from other people's point of view. That you'll ever be able to, you won't ever be able to collect all that information and really know, you know?
By the way, for me, these are really normal talks. Like,
okay, yeah, same. Okay, I figured. I was like, I'm just gonna go there.
I talk about this daily with people. So
We're
it's
going
just,
there.
Yeah.
I love it. I want to say hello to some people in the chat real quick because they just jumped in, and Curnow23 is a first time chatter, so thank you for joining us here for this very out there chat, as we always love to have. And hello to you, M Modular. Thanks for joining. This is a different time than usual, so I appreciate everyone jumping in. Because it's a good one.
Thank you.
Yes, you are also a like a mentor, coach, teacher. Would you? I don't know how you would want to. I don't want to label too much, but that's a whole other side of you, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah. So it was funny because I had the other day I had a shoot with Adam Audio, and we were talking about like it was about coaching or something, and they were like, "No, you're not a coach." The
monitor company, they make monitors, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Adam?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They are here based in Berlin, basically.
Oh,
so,
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. But they were saying like, yeah, we call you teacher, you know, you're not a coach, you're a teacher or something. And I was like, I am in a way, but I'm also a coach, because I also always feel like I want to lift people up, in whatever they want to do.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I've been doing that for a year now, and I just always thought like I really want to give something back because I've been in this journey now for 14 years,
Mm.
and I feel like I am able to give back, I'm able to help other people. And I know for me how hard it sometimes was to feel alone, to be really like, okay, this is my journey. Can someone help me maybe? But
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
So I was like, if I just make space for three people for 3 months as I'm still touring and having all these things, I can literally give something back. And I also never feel like it's normal to me that an artist is, for example, there and
Mm.
our
Hmm.
fans are there, because
Exactly.
they have similar dreams as us.
Mm-hmm.
Right, right.
So I just want to make it a little bit more equal and in balance. And I feel like, yeah, that's what I'm doing. So I'm, yeah, teaching about music production, about like set up your live set, hardware or software or whatever.
Oh,
Um,
that's a good one. Like, we talk about that a lot, like what you bring for your set and how you build your live set,
ah,
right? Versus, oh, sorry, there's a hair in my eye. Versus what you have in your studio and how to like deal with that compartmentalization.
Versus production, right?
yeah, it is. I think, because there's so much out there these days, so many products, and what does
Mm,
matching
yes.
your character and how to interact with these devices. And I always say like, okay, the devices should not interact with you. You should interact with the device, because otherwise you sound like any other person and you want to
Mm,
speak out of your heart, right?
yes.
So
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, so I teach them basically also to, that's the coaching part, to connect them with who they are and like how they yeah, like have the master their products, basically, their
Mm-hmm.
instruments. So yeah, it's really fun and it's really rewarding, and it feels very human, and not like I'm the artist or I'm that. And yeah, it feels just really really chilled. So yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, that's a really good point because your experience, whether I know you did Twitch, so I feel like this kind of is a branch of something else too. But when you're performing live, that connection is through kind of that heartbeat that you were talking about earlier,
Mm,
and it's not as much through language,
yeah.
uh, or like a mental connection.
Mm,
So to take that relationship that you have with people through this performance energy to like a one-on-one conversation about like how that experience can be something you can create too, like that sounds like a really interesting way to evolve what you do and how you relate
mm,
to the people that are enjoying that experience that you're creating for them. I
yeah.
don't think that was a
I
question. That was just me being excited about what you were saying, I think.
Hey.
yeah, I agree. Yeah, it is something. And thank you for saying that. I think it's you can see it more and more that like artists are sharing their knowledge now, also because pandemic
Mm,
sort of made us choosing different paths, and more people started music production and streaming and all that stuff. And
yeah.
I feel like you know that there's more help needed as well. There's more people that we have like a lot of tutorials online, but how do you evolve from that? Where
Hmm.
is the how can you
Mm-hmm.
make an arrangement, for example? Like, who's talking
Oh,
about that?
yes.
Yeah.
That's.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's such a good point
Yeah.
because I was just realizing the other day when I was meditating actually that
Hmm.
arrangement is like sort of the last thing that I feel like I need to conquer myself is like a
Mm.
personal music journey. Like the idea of like, taking some of my favorite arrangements and like, putting them in DAW and just like charting out sections and just being like, highlighting them and, just kind of thinking about like, oh, okay, so after 8 bars, like the song did this and, then it
Yeah.
led into this part and like, oh, that's such a cool use of that time right there, like just sort of go
Mm.
through the arrangement process and like study, like how some of my favorite arrangements are made and then like try to apply that to my own music is something that I
Yeah.
want to do. So
That's cool.
yeah.
So you're saying like you have like arrangements that you like from other tracks or
Yeah,
inspired by, and you would like to have that with your own music, for
I want
example.
to analyze those and, just for structure, really, and like just
Mm,
taking each part and like, kind of like micro analyzing it
yeah.
as to why I like, this song so much, and like why I like, the way these sections, like go into one another. Because I feel like for me, that's, you mess around, you might take classes of music theory or whatever, or learn it on
Yeah.
your own. You might play an instrument a bunch, but like arrangement is something that you don't necessarily get to practice all the time.
No,
So
it
this is
is.
kind of like something I thought of to as a way to get better, or at least create like a game out of
Exactly. Yeah.
Mm.
analyzing arrangements.
I love that you say that, like a game. Because I was a big gamer when I was younger,
Mm.
and actually I sort of found out that music is sort of. I mentioned it in a previous interview that when I found that it was my favorite game. So I didn't do anything else anymore besides making music. But if you see it as like you're building in that arrangement, right? You're programming more than actually making music. So
Mm-hmm.
I know that like making music is mostly like 30-40% creativity and the rest is programming, so you're just like
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
building and creating. And yeah, that's also what I teach in my coaching, that not every day you're creative, but then you can
Mm-hmm.
work on something very practical, just switch off that creative brain and just start to program. And then
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's a good
Yeah.
one, yeah, to analyze other structures and arrangements. And yeah, that's cool.
And I think that that is something that people who start drumming as their first instrument, I think that's
Mm.
something that they seem to sort of get naturally, because like you're constantly analyzing arrangements, like
Oh yeah.
from a drummer's standpoint. That's kind of everything, like transitions
Yeah.
and things like that. It's kind of your job to like execute those things and like I was always kind of jealous of guys that I was in bands with, playing like bass and guitar and other instruments, that were able to like get those reps. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
on arrangement. So like that's one of those things where I always, if I had it to do over again, I would probably be a drummer
Yeah,
because of that.
drummers are so sick. Like they have the tempo and they're like, I always look at the drummer in bands. I'm like, fuck, dude or girl, like you're so on it and you're just like leading this whole crew actually. Because if they drop off, it's like, uh, okay, where are we going? You know?
I am always so amazed with that precision and that like really locked in feeling
Yeah.
that drummers you can like feel it off of them. It's like, whoa,
Hmm.
that is something else that I do not have.
Yeah.
Whew. Wow.
And that,
But maybe you
yeah.
do.
Maybe we all have an inner drummer that
I
we
think
just
I
need
think
to
we do.
unlock.
Yeah, the heartbeat. That's it.
Yes.
But my heartbeat, I don't know, like I'm really bad in rhythmic on the spot, like I'm very like if I should finger drum, that would be for me the worst. Like I'm all the time like, okay, my body doesn't just work like that somehow. I'm like, okay, what do I need to do, So I think I'm more a
Absolutely.
programmer.
I
Yes.
Yeah.
think finger drumming is a rare skill. Like it doesn't
Mm.
seem natural, you know what I mean? Like
Ooh.
most interfaces for finger drumming, I feel like the MPC is probably the best one. If you've ever messed around with something like with that kind of 16 pad layout.
Yeah, or the Machine Plus or
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They have like, yeah, they have that as well. You can like, I was talking about with my partner like that a lot of times it's quantized, because it's also really hard to actually like hit on the right moment. But still, even if it's quantized, I'm like pretty jealous on people that are like good way jealous that
Mm-hmm.
people can actually
Mm-hmm.
do that. It's like even
Mm-hmm.
also singers. I'm also like you have your own synthesizer always with you. That's so cool. Like you can, yeah. I'm so bad.
Oh no,
Yeah.
that's such a good point. I mean, I would say as someone who feels that way about singing also that like everyone
Mm.
has a voice synthesizer. It's just not necessarily going to fit into a box, which actually is more interesting to
Mm.
me. because I'm like, let's explode all the boxes. Like, where are these edges at? Like, let's keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, understand.
Yeah. So coming back to your music, because I was really enjoying the mix of influences that you talk about breaking boxes. Like, your music will be going in places that I'm not expecting it to, like at every pass.
Mm.
But it always keeps me like, it's interesting, right? Because there's some music where you're like, I feel so safe and strapped into this, like there's nothing that's gonna change about. I am locked in, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
with your music, you don't feel that way, but you still feel like, no, I want to be like kind of riding the edge here,
yeah,
not
yeah.
knowing what's gonna happen. Like I still feel totally safe and locked in, but it's in like a more freeing way. And you brought up freedom earlier,
Mm.
so I'm curious why it's so important to you to, you know, have this freedom.
Hmm. I think I think I was like, to be honest, I was always very bad in wording what I feel. Like I couldn't, as a child, express my feeling. I was always very quiet and like more to the shy side. And I developed that skill now. But like for me, it's still, I'm perfectly sitting in my on my own here the whole day. You know, I'm totally fine with not talking, for example, and just yeah, that's just my natural my character, I think. But by the music I'm doing, I felt like the ultimate freedom to just make. It's like a painter, you know. There is no, there's only the limitation of the canvas, and they work with the whole thing and they make something out of their own fantasy. And I feel like when I'm making music, I'm gone. Like you can't reach me anymore because I'm not there anymore. Basically, it's
Yeah.
just like also when I'm with a friend or I'm sound checking or whatever, I'm just gone. And they sometimes also need to say like, okay, yeah, you have 10 minutes left to sound check, and I just wasn't jamming there for 50 minutes or so. You know, it's like that happens quite often. But I feel like that for me, that is the freedom of expression, you know. And I feel like in anything in life, I feel that's very important, you know. Like it's very important that we get more and more the chance of being who we are, and not anymore because we need to act like that, or we grew up with a certain, you know, we get like our dad and moms or whatever, they give us some basic knowledge, and then we develop if we are a child, and then we adapt all these different views and insights, but that's not who we are, you know. We are still that child. And I feel like it's yeah, like if I do everyday music, I'm fine, and if I don't do it, I feel like, oh shit, there goes my therapy, you know. Like I need,
Yes.
let me please do something with music. Or um so yeah, I think that's it. But also, you know, it's art. I think art is really hard to describe sometimes. It's like a feeling. uh yeah.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think we're riding that same wavelength.
Mm.
That's why I think these conversations are so fun, because it's sort of like we're creating this tapestry of conversations about this same sort of theme of like, we all want more freedom of expression. We find
Mm.
that sort of release and also like processing of everything we're feeling through making electronic music specifically.
Yeah.
And usually not always, but usually hands on is like a really big component as well. And I noticed that, you know, when I saw some of your live footage, you do bring, you know, a good amount of hardware with you, that you are
Mm.
creating things, you know, in real time,
Yeah.
which is really exciting.
Yeah, I think for me, you know, as especially those electribes I have here. So these, I don't know if I can.
You read my mind. I was just gonna ask you about the blue
I'm gonna
electribe
check if
that
this wire is still connected.
Right,
I
careful.
remember when
Okay.
those things came out. They
Yeah,
were
it's like
so good. I had
Yes.
serious
yeah.
gas for one of these.
Ooh.
It was like my
So
original gas, and I never got one.
no?
I never got
Ah,
one,
yeah, they like
but I
if
loved
they
it.
are not with me on stage, I feel almost like they it sounds so sad, but it's not sad. Like they are my best friends.
I mean, yes. That makes
Like,
so much sense, though.
it's like they have a character, you know, and they talk.
Mhm.
We talk very well together. Like
Mm.
we have the
Mhm.
amazing, like also what you just said about the UK influences, you know, those boxes have that. They have
They do.
that crunchiness, and they have those tubes where you can
Mhm.
compress the sound and make it sound warmer. And there's a you can literally make the waveform sing with this thing, because there's
Ooh.
I don't know if I can show you.
The
Sorry, now
effects are
we're
so
gonna
good.
talk
Yeah,
about
just hold it
something.
to the camera. Like, I
Okay,
mean,
wait.
we've probably, most of us have probably seen these before, but it's
Yeah.
the Korg EMX-1
No, it's just called EMX, I think. MX. Yeah, I don't
MX.
know. Yeah.
I didn't
But
know.
yeah.
Don't quote me on that. Yeah, I have no idea what it's called.
It's so cool.
I just know it's the blue one. And
Yes,
I
the
used to
blue
play
one.
it all the time at the music store. Like, I was like,
Oh, it's one of those.
I was
Okay.
on it like crazy. Like, it was like my favorite thing to play with at the music store because of the tubes and because of the effects, and everything was like so good. Like, you could just like make techno like instantly on that thing. Like,
Yeah, it's intuitive.
it's really, really good. So,
Yeah.
you know, I haven't really thought about one of those in a while, but like, you know, if I'm like scrolling through and I see like something of yours come up, I'm always like, yeah, the blue one.
Yeah. You need a t-shirt with that, like the blue one.
The
Ah,
blue
blue
one. Oh, that's so funny. Oh my gosh. That's amazing.
As opposed to the red one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It must clarify.
Yeah. Yeah, there is also a red one actually, which I had, but like
I mean,
I
the red
feel
one's
like
cool too, but the blue one has like that mojo, in my opinion.
yeah, for me as well. I sold that one because it was a sampler, and for me there's a smart media storage, so you have 128
Uh-huh.
MB to work with. So I was like, okay, you know, if I say already high, that's already then that smart media thing is full, you know. So it's like that doesn't really work. So, but yeah, this one also those knobs, they have resistance in it. You can feel
Mhm.
it's solid material, and
Good knobs, yeah.
um,
Oh, that's such a
yeah, for
good
me
point.
it's so important.
It is.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, yeah, what I said about like the singing part, there is a modulation part on it. And you basically, if you have like a waveform, you can create a sort of LFO or play with the oscillators. So there is a sort of, a waveform going into that sound. So it can be like a sample or like a something from the synth oscillator. And it makes it like super groovy, and you can record that motion sequence. And then if you have like those 16 steps times 8, so you have like it's just running.
Mm.
And if you play, for example, 80 BPM, you can that waving, it's like surfing, you know, it's like literally it's like whoop.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm so glad
exactly.
you brought it up.
Exactly. Yeah.
You did
and
it. That was beautiful.
So, just to catch the chat up, we had a little bit of an offline discussion when we were prepping for the stream where we discovered that Nadia had done some surfing, and I freaked out because
In Australia, which is way beyond.
yeah, in Australia,
It's
and
the dream.
you know, so I obviously had a conniption fit, and said that I was a big fan of surfing and stuff, and like
As many of you here may know already, our
yeah,
surfing
I mean we
channel
have
in the Discord.
we have like most of the time when I try to bring it up, it gets parking lot, to the Discord. Like I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Our mod will let me know, like, hey man, we gotta.
That's enough surf talk. No,
we
no.
gotta can it.
But I just love that you brought it up because there is so much to relate with electronic music and surfing.
Mm.
When you're riding the sound, or following the sound, or waiting for the sound.
It's my number one analogy, and like I feel like Jacqueline is probably sick of me talking
We're
about
sick
it.
of hearing ourselves say it.
Because I'm like, yeah, man, it's so much like improvising, like electronic music, man. Like you're waiting for that opportunity, and you gotta take it.
You gotta be ready for it.
You
gotta be in the right position.
You gotta put yourself in the right position. And I just like make analogy after analogy after analogy about how like everything we do is like surfing, and like I
So I just want to say, chat, we didn't bring it up this time. Our guest did. It's this is an organic, organic experience.
It's Nadia's fault.
Yeah, exactly. I take the blame. It's fine.
But it made us so happy to hear you talk about that.
It's like it gives me such a warm feeling already thinking about it, you know. And in Berlin, there's not a lot of surfing here, but like
you gotta generate the warmth from inside.
Yeah. I surf online though, like, you know, browsing, but I do feel like it is funny because we talk all the time about waveforms, you know, and like how much I think with surfing, like if you have the different resistance in the water and like, you know, you can feel that the vibe is different. You can feel in your body that like the pace is quicker or whatever, you know, it does so much with everything is related to who we are, right? So it's I feel that's also with music, with if you can already hear like if you increase LFOs or whatever, you have a different feeling with that. Like techno is so different than ambient, you know, because so
it's like a totally different mode, you know, like you have to put the studio in a different mode.
Using a different board.
Yeah.
To go into ambient mode.
Yeah. It is. It so is. And that's why I think, you know, I was thinking about that lately because so I made my fourth album and we are sort of in the transition. It will come out, let's say it like that. And but I also think like people, if you pitch your music to people, you know, you're sometimes in a different mood. And then you listen to that and you think, oh, this is so shit, you know, no, this is so not it. And then a week later, you're like the happy fairy or whatever, and you're listening like, whoa, this is so good, you know. So I'm like, it's you know, moods and that's why I also believe genres are just made up stuff because
they are.
I know, like it's nice to listen every day techno, but you will have a different mood towards it every time. I think.
Well, techno, so I think one of the things I like about techno as a genre, if if we have to, is that it is a pretty broad one. You know, if you listen to like the origins of techno, you know, especially like it's all over the map, you know, like breakbeat, you know, the beat structures like all over the place with early stuff. But it all has like a feel and a groove
say it's the feeling
that, you know, gives you that techno feel. And I'm like so you know, just interested in what, you know, what that feel is, you know, like what is it that makes it feel like a techno track? Because it's definitely something that we should be able to define, but it's hard to define, you know. And so
and it's also changing, right? So hypes are changing. Like we can hear, okay, I must be honest, like ambient also always stays sort of the same, you know. It's like well, I must be honest. So if I think back about 2000 or whatever, in the time with like Richie Houghton and John Beltran, and it was
classics.
The classics, and in that time, ambient was like popping. You know, it was really a good place to be in that time. I think I was like 11 years old, but like, you know, I probably was listening to Enya on the couch with my mom, but. I think it does change. So it does also there are like little hypes going on. Also, if you listen to ambient that's made in Japan, you know, they have a sort of different scale they are using as well.
Yes.
So there are trends in ambient as well, but I do believe it's a little bit how ambient is more slow and techno is like, okay, different hype and different hype and different hype. Yeah. I don't know.
Absolutely. No, but, I totally know what you mean.
I love techno. I love it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's for that reason of if you're, the feeling that it gives you is a very special thing. And I think
it's like
being on the end of the spectrum that you hold room for both is really interesting.
So you DJ as well, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. How long have you been DJing?
I think since I was 19, so or 20, 19, 19, I think. So that
Wow.
is oh my goodness, that's yeah, that is 14 years ago, guys.
Okay, okay. So that is really the we talked about your kind of origins into music and how you experienced music, and then we're curious about how, how is it being made. But we didn't really
Mm.
talk about kind of like what that first moment was. After that, we kind of jumped beyond it. So,
I was just curious, like in terms of the DJing,
hmm
do you use did you ever use vinyl, and do you use it now,
oh,
or are
that's
you
yeah.
doing like a digital thing?
Well, actually, so when I started, that was just the time. It's funny because we all have these different times with different technology. And I
Yes.
was at the time that the MIDI controllers just came out and it was a thing.
Mm.
You know, it was like, oh my goodness, we can now be at home for a few bucks and we can just DJ, like we have these jog wheels, everything felt very plasticky, but that
Yes.
was good enough, to feel as a DJ.
Mhm.
So I came to a sort of mentor I had in that time. Not like she became a really good friend actually, but I skipped, of course, school and I went there and like I was I came there with my I still know it so well with that controller. And I said like I want a DJ because I wrote her and I was looking up to her because she was yeah, in that time she was flying. And she said like there were not a lot of women in that time, right? So she invited me over and she said like, yeah, you come over and practice and I talk you through the electronic music scene and how that developed.
Wow.
So I was a
Whoa.
sort of coming in a warm bath there. And yeah, like my parents didn't knew I was not at school. I was all the time in Rotterdam, like hearing about electronic music. So I was
Oh my
always
god.
traveling and going to her and going to every party I could take and knowing and hearing. I was like a sponge, and I think that's really important when you start
Mm-hmm.
off making music to get and grab every opportunity you can get.
Mm.
So I came there with my MIDI controller and she looked at me and she started to laugh. So I was like hello, like this is super cool, okay, and she said, okay, here is some vinyl, here you can go, and these are also my CD players. And I was like, yeah, what do I need to do with this then? And she said, here are those are easy and you can just beat match. So I was like trying it out and I was like, yeah, who does this, like how can this work, like I just didn't understand.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on I started to get a hang of it, and so I did learn both, but I knew already because I have HDD, so I'm like quite all over the place sometimes.
Mm.
And for me it just doesn't work to play with vinyl. I tried it and I get just very nervous, and I don't know what it is, but just didn't work. But it
Sure.
did work when I had a CD player because I felt like that's like a machine, It feels like technology. It feels
Mm-hmm.
for me as home. So then I started to DJ and I got my first gigs because I was raving always. So I knew I had a bit of a network already.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, and then it just took off, and like it happened a few times that because I was playing techno in that time, that I could sort of break through, but did I was not ready for that. So I just went all the time back to ambient or experimental, and that's harder to promote, right?
Yeah.
It's like dance music is like sort of easier.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, every time I went back to it and back to it, and yeah, and now I think after all these years, I finally feel like I found exactly a combination of both, and that it's also accepted, it's sort
Mm-hmm.
of accepted that you're not only a techno DJ anymore, it's also okay if you do experimental and ambient music and make shows and visuals, and so yeah, in a way it became a bit easier now. So it's a very long answer to your question, but
Oh,
it's
it was
there.
great. No, that answers everything. That's
No, I
perfect.
I wanted to know
Mm-hmm.
that much. I'm glad
Yeah.
that you covered it all.
I just surfed, man.
Yes, we're just surfing the
Yeah.
conversation too.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Um, so, would you say that you do like, in terms of your time? You just mentioned that you were doing like a shoot with an audio company. Like, what would you say? How would you say your time is spent these days, in terms of, you know, DJing,
Mm.
playing like, doing improvisation stuff, doing like, stuff for audio companies. Like, how would you say like your time is split in that regard?
Mm. That's I always I because I work sort of a few hours for Bukes. That's a company that make gear books. So if you ever want to dive into modular or whatever, there are a lot of tips and stuff. But
Oh, okay. So that's another
yeah,
thing that you do.
Wow.
That's
yeah, I
sort of like a
do a
day
lot
job,
actually.
or
No, not really. Like it's I
just
just a few
another
hours.
Yeah.
another
So
gig. Yeah.
yeah, like
Wow.
I did like graphic design and web development for a long time, and
Oh.
so I was working, for example, Nikon and like Blue Mic and some other companies. So I found always it's really nice to have like all these different things because I feel I'm getting
Yeah.
creative by doing all these different things, and I'm not seeing it as like I think most people might think, oh, this is overwhelming. This is a lot of pressure. I get burnout from it, but I get life in myself. I feel like I'm alive. So,
Mm-hmm.
mostly what I'm doing. So I have around 5 hours for that company each week that I'm doing. And then, gigging is like maybe once in 2 weeks or once, yeah, it's a bit, I can't never say that because sometimes it's only like three or, it's a bit go
Mm-hmm.
up and down.
Gotcha.
Um, but then I make music, so I do remixes and I work. I think most my time goes at the moment to collaborations with different gear companies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I do jams and I show people creatively what you can do with it, and not like as in a very tutorial way, more like how can you chain things up and what kind of sounds do you get out of it,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
um, and
Do you
then I just
collaborate with Thoman by any chance ever? Like isn't that like the big store? Is that what it's called?
um, no, I work directly with brands, so it's
Oh,
not
okay.
that I
Just
work
the
Oh,
brands
for.
themselves.
that's okay. Gotcha.
Oh,
That
yeah,
would be like a retail level
Yeah, I was
thing.
talking about like
yeah.
a huge retail store that I think is
Ah,
based out of Berlin, and it's called Thoman. They just built a
oh,
big
so
warehouse
yeah,
or something. You know what I'm talking about?
yeah. I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, um,
But
yeah.
you're
So
talking about the individual companies themselves.
yeah, so yeah, it's like for like example, like Native Instruments, Teenage, Korg, Arturia, all
Mm-hmm.
the bigger players there. But I see it really as what I said, like those devices for me, it's my heart, it's a character, it's a sort of thing I want to work with, and yeah, I think it's sort of my dream was always my dream, and I'm just sort of living in that dream, and
Mm.
Hmm.
um, it's just really nice to do it for myself, but also help other people. And then of course I just built now my website, which I'm gonna launch in a week. And yeah, there's like some thing. It's like a fun place to be, like there's a lot of things happening, and
That's
um,
awesome.
yeah, and like a shop, and so there will
Wow.
be some sample packs I'm gonna sell as well. And
Wow,
um,
that's so cool.
yeah,
Oh, that's
yeah,
so
I just
exciting. That's going to be launching soon. Yay.
yeah, it will be fun,
Have you done sample packs previously? Like, do you have any currently?
Yes, I did actually one for like an application, but now I feel like I just want to do it myself because I have so much gear, and I know not everyone is fortunate to have this gear. So if I
Mm-hmm.
can give something back,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I will. I want to record some sequences and maybe some percussion, and people getting started with different genres. So maybe it's for
Ooh.
ambient, or maybe it's for techno, or
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, something like that.
Oh, there's a lot of possibilities there. That's very
Yeah.
exciting.
But that's a bit, my day looks always different. It's always different. I never know what is happening. I just go with like surfing, go with flow.
Yes.
Um, I never feel pressure. I just don't want to feel pressure in my life.
Oh,
So,
that's such a good dedication.
Yeah.
yeah, what my biggest dream was when I was a child,
Love
that
to
I
know
did,
that.
here it comes, that I never have to put my alarm anymore. I hate it. I just get stressed awake, and I was like, if I can make it happen for myself, that I don't wake up with at 7 o'clock, I'm such a happy person. Oh.
This is also my dream. I love this. Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
Do you guys have full-time jobs actually? Do you
Well,
Sorry, I just have to ask.
no,
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 it's
no.
fair.
I
It's
mean,
really fair.
I asked you all kinds of shit, so it's okay to ask back.
Yeah, I mean, up until a couple years ago, we both had full time jobs, and leaving the city life behind meant that we could shift some of that.
Mm.
So, especially with everything that happened, we can work from home now. So we have
Oh,
more
that's nice.
sort of like you said, like every day is different, but we do have jobs.
Yeah, but that's good. It provides you the
Yeah.
freedom you want for music.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a key part of things. Because there's so much variation in what we do and we want that freedom, it's like you have to always balance everything.
It's true. Like, as I said, it's been for me like I'm doing this 14 years, right? So since now maybe 1 year, 2 years, I'm finally having that dream. But it also took me so much and so much dedication, and that's what people don't see. I lost friends. I did invest a lot of money and time, and it was just from 9 to 5 working.
Yeah.
Then I was from 6 to 2 a.m. in the morning. I was doing music, and that every day for 10 years. So.
Exactly. Yeah, that's something we we probably should like address more because it's like not as magical and fun to talk about, but it's very very real and true that
Yeah.
there's like an art to how we've had to like choose to live our lives and what we've had to sacrifice or sort of be kind of maybe it doesn't make sense to other people, but this is
Yep.
this we're riding this wave and we just have to do it this way.
Oof, yeah, family can be a rough one when you're dedicating your life to something no one understands.
It's just a hobby. It's just a hobby. Okay, Dad.
Oh
No,
no.
I think that's the first time. I think my dad said like a few weeks ago, the first time, like, yeah, I think your dad was wrong. Like, yeah, I thought always was a hobby, but like, so it is possible to convince just by following your path.
Just keep at it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is. It's sort of like the journey of doing it is a big part of why we do it too, though.
Yeah.
The,
You
like,
love it? Do you like sometimes that it's like, everything goes wrong, and the next day is like, oh, it's great.
yes.
Yeah.
As someone who is always dreaming of how to live without an alarm, I do like the sort of unpredictable nature of this whole journey. Because I just really don't want to be locked into a routine. It's just, oh.
Yeah, I see too many people in life having this, and I said to myself, I can't, and I don't want to, and I feel yeah. I always think like maybe I'm not there tomorrow, and then what can I say? Like, I don't want to have regrets, So I
Yeah.
step in everything I can step in, and if that goes wrong, then I'd rather feel very bad than having no feeling at all.
Oh, wow. Yes. That must
Willing
be
to
what
take
it
the
is.
risk, but then what you end up figuring out is that, like you said, like things go well the next day.
Yeah, and I think also my partner said today, like sometimes people go steps back, and then the next day you go forwards. It's you just know that's life. That's just it.
Oh, thank you for saying that. That is so key because that's like part of this whole balancing act is that when you're in that place where you feel like you've gone 4 steps back, you don't know yet that it's because you're about to like launch 10 steps forward. you just
Exactly.
feel that. So like learning that
Yeah.
that's like actually where that
Learning,
momentum comes from.
learning not to throw a tantrum in that
Don't,
moment.
Yeah, yeah.
don't give up right then. That's the
And
moment.
yeah, throwing it
It's,
all
it's
away.
it's like really a roller coaster, right? If you sit in
Yes.
it and you're scared and you're like, I don't want this, and then it shoots off, and you're like, oh, this is so cool, you know. So I think holding your vision there is better than sometimes, yeah, having
I like the
always.
roller
Mm,
coaster analogy
that was great.
because, trusting that there's going to be resistance and ebbs and flows, over and over again is similar to going on a roller coaster
Yeah.
over and over
Yeah.
again. Like you do it because it's fun, but you know that there's going to be these moments,
Where you're
but they're going
not
to be somewhat
sure.
predictable if we're
Yeah.
talking
They can
about
be
a
over
roller
time.
coaster.
Yeah.
And life can feel that way
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Ooh, you can learn, you can build those patterns. But I'm just glad you said that because that was something I wanted to piece together from the beginning as we close out our conversation here is that you said it's like you want to be on that roller coaster because you'd rather feel bad than nothing at all. And this idea that like you are strapped in, but it's going crazy, right? Is
Yeah.
exactly that. I can feel that in your music. And that
Mm,
comes from life experience. And so I think what I just want to celebrate is that like living an artist's life is like part of producing the fruit of being an artist, and that making that
mm-hmm.
choice is really hard and really challenging, and it tests you in every possible
Yeah.
way. And
Yeah.
it's very inspiring to hear you talk about this, and I'm so grateful that you were able to join us today and just offer so much of yourself to us, that we are feeling so uplifted and inspired, not just because you told us yeah everything's going great, but because you like revealed like your real journey in all of this.
Mm,
So
Very
yeah.
inspiring stuff. I agree.
Well, happy you asked me. I
Are we synth friends though? We usually ask the question like, are we synth friends?
We are synth friends.
Woohoo!
mm,
Friends with the W, friends.
friends.
Yeah.
Friends.
Yeah, we have a question in the chat if we can ask real quick before you have to go. Do different genres present differently in relation to your synthesizia, and does it steer your production at all?
Oh yeah, back to that we
Ooh,
barely touched on.
I know, that was like a whole thing.
I could have gone for the whole session on that.
So when you were talking about how you like have, perfect pitch and you see colors and that whole experience of music for you, does that steer the production, or does the production, I'm going to be able to generate this kind of experience for myself if I do certain things?
Yeah, that's such a good question. So for me, it is so weird, but I create like a track I can create in an hour or maybe even less. So it's for me, I just know what to do. I just have this feeling and I'm just doing it. So it goes first to my feelings and then I make something, but I never said actually the intention, this is what I'm gonna make. But I know that people that don't have that, like the absolute hearing and stuff, they I think it's better to limit yourself to say today I'm gonna make this, because first you wanna be proud of yourself and you get into it and create a habit, and then every day there's something more and you're like celebrating. But for me, that I never had that. I never needed that. It's just for me very you can give me anything. You can give me like what is this? Like a labello thingy, like for your lips. So I can make music out of this.
Right,
That's
right. No, I know
yeah,
what you mean. You're like, this is my answer, but like, don't take this for yourself if you're,
I think having
a
that
getting started
ability
person.
probably comes in really handy when you're messing with synthesizers, because
mm,
there's all that like tuning that you can do it's like happening in between things, and like
Ooh.
when you lock into stuff that is just right there,
yeah.
right? Like
I think there's so many terms, like so many parameters you actually can tweak. And I feel like a lot of people get overwhelmed by it because they think I need to know the term. What the parameter means, what
No,
does
you don't.
LFO means, what's the K. But it
Most people
happens
don't.
when you tweak
yeah.
it, because if you tweak it, you're gonna relate it to yourself, and you're like, wow, but this is connected to that emotion towards me.
And that's all
Yes.
that matters.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that experience is where you learn. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Because otherwise, and this is getting a little shroomy, if you will, but like naming parameters is kind of like naming genres, It's like, it's all hogwash. Like, what is any of this crap? We just made it all up.
Yeah. It's just to communicate with each other, basically. Yeah. Because I wanted to say in my Instagram bio, like something like fuck genres, because I really don't believe in it. I can't help it. It's
well, I can't imagine that would align with like how you experience music, right? Like,
yeah,
you don't need those boundaries of barriers.
No, I don't.
Oh my goodness, I think we could do this conversation for hours and hours and hours, so we'll have to just set ourselves this boundary here. So I appreciate you letting us know that an hour is good for you, because our chat will take us on a journey for as long as they want, and we love it so much, but we have to honor your time commitment. So I just want to say, if there's anything specific that you want us to, a link or a thing to look out for or to check out, please let us know.
It's so funny because I talked a lot about myself, but I never feel like it's about me and I want to say something about me. For me, it's more like, I don't know, everyone, people that are watching this, just believe, just do your thing, man. Like, yeah, only you can believe what you feel. So, yeah.
Wow.
That's it.
That's awesome. Well, I'm so glad that Robert St. John connected us. And that we were able to do this today. Oh my goodness. I know. We could have talked about him this whole stream too. Exactly. We're so excited that hopefully, potentially, we'll get to connect when we're in Berlin in May.
Definitely.
Yeah,
that would be so much fun. Yeah. I will prepare the waves.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Gosh, yes. Just sending you so much love and appreciation for doing this with us today. And we will see you on the internet.
Thank you for inviting, and talk soon, guys.
Take care. Bye.
See ya.
Always have to push more buttons than I really can handle personally. Yay, everyone. Thank you so much. Wow. I was really trying to stick to the hour. I didn't want to take advantage
we did it.
Of the excitement and the momentum of the wave we were riding, but I know we all want to shout love to Nadia from the stream. And so many new friends that got to join us because we're at a different time. I always love that. Good to see you, Microwave Buddha. I saw your request for closed captioning, and I love that request. So I'm going to try to figure that out. J+J+J got to join because it was at a different time. Oh, you've been following Nadia since she did a product demo for the Dato Duo. Classic. Yes. Oh, yeah. That was fun when we were talking about 90s techno. That was great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Cut 3 Death. Maybe Cute Death, maybe. First time chatter coming in super late. Oh, Nadia is the queen of ambient. I agree. I highly recommend everybody to go listen to her music. Obviously, we could play it here, but I always worry about the issues that we might have with that for certain people's music. We even get our own music copyright issues because it's registered or whatever, so just definitely go follow her and listen to her music.
Plus, the channels are out there, go support an artist.
Yeah, exactly. It's also more fun to just do that and have your own experience with it. A lot of love for the genre breaking conversations that we had. Man, that was so awesome. I honestly, I could not believe when we did our pre-check and she brought up surfing, we were like, what? How is this possible?
I lost it. I was like, what? Are you kidding me right now? You've surfed way more than I have because I haven't surfed very much.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, big fan of surfing, as you know, and just the fact that we compared it to everything.
Oh, I mean, just the way we got to talk about it. That's why we love surfing. Abhorrent Moo. Hello there. Thank you for joining us. First time chat. I don't know if I said that right, but I imagine you're an electronic music fan. Connecticut. I didn't see you there earlier. Welcome in. Happy Thursday, everyone. We when we have a guest who's in a different time zone and we have to coordinate and we have to stick to time constraints, I can't be as chatty in the chat. Which is probably for the best anyway, because I'm so all over the place. Oh yeah, the colors and experiencing colors and pitch and sound. I just hearing her talk about that made me want to somehow have the experience of what she's experiencing with music, right? What is that like?
Mm-hmm. I don't know, man.
Oh
like,
my goodness. That's how new genres are built by. Yeah, that's true. See, this Drukin has a good point that I wanted to talk about, but I didn't want to go on a tangent about like the whole idea that electronic music, because the technology is so tied to it, of what's available, what are people using, how are we breaking the genres, like it's the reason it's such an exciting thing to be part of, because it's always evolving and always changing. And like when you were talking about early techno and how it's all over the place, it's because wasn't a thing that of course, because it was like people were listening to that and going, "Oh, we want just that now. So let's give it a label, and now you can have your crate of techno vinyl, and that's what we want to hear tonight at this certain time."
That's how it breaks off.
Yeah.
And
hey, early stream, welcome in, friends.
Bifurcates.
Still good no matter what time. Yes, make mistakes. Thank you for joining us at this earlier time. It's actually kind of fun to be at a different time. As we were discussing in our thing, like routines are hard for us. So plus, even having like the same time every week can feel like too much of a routine for me.
Plus,
I know, I'm like, but I also don't know like where I am or what my day is now.
For selfish reasons, we have the rest of the day and the evening to ourselves.
That's true.
So I'm excited about that.
Oh, Jabrukin, you thought we vibed so well. Future Jam. Oh my goodness. That's just bowling me over.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like, we could tell right away that, we had so much in common.
Oh, so. It's so cool to meet someone for the first time in this environment and just like vibe so hard. But that's on her, right? Like, she's an amazing person. It was easy for that to be the case. She's just like, oh yeah, this is the kind of conversations I would normally have. And we're like, yes, that's the kind of conversations we normally have.
Where can we go hang out?
How is that? Is that a genre?
But then again, I think about it, and that's pretty much all the conversations I'm having anyway.
Yeah, but getting like really deep into the idea of perception, and like when you're making music for an experience that you're feeling, but then other people are going to have a different experience but like it too, but for different reasons. It's just like,
That's quite
every human perception is its own thing, and you'll never ever be able to fully know. But also, we're all one. It's like that whole idea, especially you feel that with electronic music in at a techno night, let's just say, when we're talking about that heartbeat, it so locks everybody in, and you start to feel like one organism.
Yes.
Oh goodness, we're going too far off the deep end.
Oh, I couldn't resist.
Oh no. So I think now we're going to go have lunch, which is like normally we would go have dessert after SYNTH Friends at night.
If we're lucky, yeah.
Gosh, is there any news? Oh, of course there's news. It's 303 Fest starting in a couple hours. It kicks off at 3 p.m. Eastern, I believe, today. And our slot is tomorrow at 3:30.
Yeah, come laugh at me hitting the randomize button on the TD3.
I'm so excited. 303 Fest is something, it's our first time doing it. We joined the Shrub Guild for 909 Fest last year, so we're doing 303 for the first time, and we're so stoked because we love acid so much. It brings us so much joy, and I'm really excited to pretend like we can do it. Wine o'clock, Drukin, what time is it for you? Is it literally that time for you? What tools does Galaxy Electric use for found sound samples and live ambiance? Ooh, I love this question, Connecticut. This is all we talk about.
Such a simple question.
Literally everything that we're doing it's like 90% that, I feel like.
But no, what do we do though? What do we use?
Like, okay, I see what you're saying. The reason you're asking is because it's so prevalent. So that, I guess what I mean is literally anything could be that.
These are the K240s. They're very flat. I do like them for mixing, but I wouldn't want them to be the only thing that I would use because they're a little too flat, if you will. They're kind of like NS10s for headphones.
Yes, make mistakes. We're all going to be making some 303 mistakes. That's perfect. Yeah, we found that these headphones were the best for both of us, which is a very specific need to fill.
They're good all the time headphones.
For improvising together. For us to both kind of have the same experience of the sound in the way that we need to for improvising live together is the original purpose of them.
They're open, so you know, they don't have like that, like you feel like your face is being compressed by them, like feeling they're very like
they're
loose, very comfortable, and you know they have an open sound, so they're like not as bad for your ears.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
so when we're doing like 3-hour jams,
I can put them relatively low. You know, the mix is still going to be flat, and they're gonna they're not gonna tax your ears as much.
Because when we try to do open air jamming, it's just a fucking mess.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that you just opened them the other day. Oh, we used to be like evangelists for these headphones, but now it's just like there's so much stuff and there's so many options, and who cares, you know, at this point.
I like that you can replace the cable. Like this true. One's got a replace cable on it. You can replace the earphones.
I was gonna say, like, these are the same ones we've always had, and we just keep replacing the parts.
The phones, yeah, like and they're cheap.
Yeah.
They're so cheap, and they don't look crazy on you.
Yeah.
They're nice and like
they fit the bill.
Tight to your
They have, you know, this is kind of insane.
The little but it's kind of like
mine looks so much
aging.
Crazier than yours for some reason.
Because you've got a
mine's
smaller head.
I don't know, like I'm wearing it in a way that makes it look insane, and I never thought about it before. But yeah, it does remind me of the Space Helmet, and I think that's why I'm just writing that out.
Yeah.
Yes, okay, so the tools, it said what tools do we use for it? So...
Oh, tools, or like what kind of sounds do we go for?
So like anything from like this being recorded into something, like a looper, to a tape loop that is going to be something we made either on the stream or prior.
A lot of times we'll like field record with our phones when we're out and about, and then we might transfer it to a tape loop later.
Yeah, that's
so it's almost like
one.
Cheating. Because we want that, you know, found sound that we found out in the world, but we want to put it on a tape loop, so we do it after the fact instead of actually capturing it on the tape loop.
Yeah, sometimes we'll intentionally go out and capture on cassette.
We've done that a few times.
But it's not as common because you're not living your life that way.
And you never know when you're going to stumble across a cool sound, and then, you know, so I would say 90% of it is honestly iPhone recordings that then make their way to some other form of media, you know, some other medium, like they're basically remixed or remastered to tape.
Yeah, we like doing, you know...
But then vinyl.
Yeah, that's true.
I recently, well, sci-fi films are a big source for me and kind of always have been because of, you know, how weird they are and like how...
Oh, they're just so...
And the vibe and like...
There, you know, people are saying weird stuff.
The sci-fi sounds.
Making up machine sounds. That's so cool. Yeah. See you later, Make Mistakes. Thanks for joining us. I hope this lifts your day.
So that's a big source. I've kind of recently, because like in the world of sampling, you kind of have to like... give yourself focus, or else the world of sampling just seems like too much, and I struggle with that myself, so like I have to kind of like hyper focus on things or else they don't get done. So like for me, like right now sci-fi movies almost like provide everything. Like there's so much, like you can get background sounds, you know, if you're looking for like weird sci-fi like outside soundscapes, or you know, weird, it's amazing what kind of background noise is used throughout like vintage sci-fi movies. Yeah. And there's like, it's like always like a little like pulse, you know, in the background, like beep, beep,
oh, I love those moments.
And like so sometimes that's nice to just like superimpose that like on top of a beat.
When we watch sci-fi movies, and anything really at this point, but a lot of times it's sci-fi, we're listening to the movie more than we're watching it, because every single time. I mean, we always were, but with such detail, like those kinds of things that we've started to notice that we pick up on in anything else we watch too, where you're just like, what the fuck are those sounds going on? Who knew? There's like always something low in the mix in the background of stuff that if you really start paying attention, I think that's why I love these. Again, back to the headphones. We like to wear these when we're watching the movies. For that very reason, because we're picking up stuff that we would never hear otherwise.
Exactly.
It's sort of like having the captions on.
And then lots of like CB radio dialogue moments, which are really great for using in...
Oh my gosh. Sampling from old movies that were cut to analog mediums, nothing sounds like that. Those voices from that time being fed through those shitty fucking microphones.
Tube mics and stuff.
Tube
tape
mics to a tube tape
machines.
machine, yeah.
Yeah, just...
That the reason that there's that feeling and that warm radio sound in so much of stuff from that era.
You know, it's analog. Whatever they're doing,
and
you know,
nothing
that
can
they've
ever sound like
achieved
that
in like
again.
a radiophonic workshop kind of way.
Yes.
So it's just guaranteed that you're gonna get those.
Oh my
those
god!
sounds.
Sorry, just this comment from Black Bufu. The whipping out your Tascam in public thing is really funny. That is how I feel like. But imagine if you both had one in your back pocket, and you were out. This is why we don't go out in the world anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I can't.
Out in like large gatherings.
The world
of
isn't
people.
designed for
We
me
like to go to
and my tape machines.
isolated places.
And
Oh, it puts it in a whole new perspective. Oh, that's amazing. It is sample farming. It is. So we aren't doing a very good job right now of keeping up with watching and sampling like we were before because we're overwhelmed. We're in a creative phase right now and we don't want to be organized.
But I'm going to get at it.
But we're going to get at it real hard, real soon. And it's going to make movie night even more exciting because we really will be doing it in real time.
Yeah, I mean, but I've even found that, like, there's lots of weird, like, percussion sounds you can get from sci-fi stuff because there's lots of clanks and stuff, and everything seems to be exaggerated in these, you know, ways using effects and stuff to make them sound out of this world, you know, but, like, when you listen to the sound isolated without the context of the sci-fi film, it actually, you know, just sounds like a cool sound. Like, I found that, you know, many times. So they're gold mines, you know, like, and there's so many of them, you know, like,
yeah, that's true.
I'm not worried about, you know, anybody stepping on my toes, because there's just unlimited, you know.
Yeah,
films
it's
out there.
really, it's pretty vast. It's pretty unbelievable. Oh my goodness. I love picking up stuff on my scanner. I mean, that's a big, I guess, Connecticut to answer your question.
Zardoz says.
I know, I want to address the Zardoz of it all, but to finish answering Connecticut's question, we do have the Como Electronic Field Kit, and we are using radio in real time through the synth. So
A lot of times, yeah.
So that's a lot
just
of it.
That's I'll do that or tape loops, but like radio is so great because you never know what you're gonna get, and
it can
adds,
be very jarring sometimes.
It adds to the spontaneity. Jacqueline does not like when it just comes on and it's really dry all of a sudden, and it's just like really obvious that it's a local station here.
It's like a Rihanna song or something.
Yeah,
and
it's like a modern,
it like takes me way
top
out.
40
But we
song
like to
in the middle of
joke.
our ambient, and I really try to minimize that, but like
Sometimes you can't help
comes
it.
with the territory, you know.
We-
Expect
sometimes-
that's gonna happen.
So basically, like, the story I'm telling myself is that, like, we're in our spaceship, we're out in space, we're using this to sort of ride the sound waves, if you will, surf the sound waves of space.
Sometimes.
And that's sometimes, like, a freaking thing comes by and it's playing some
Rogue
shit.
Wave.
Yeah. And that's how I explain the radio interference when we're playing live. Because you have to do that to get to the thing you want to get to.
I'm glad that you have such an amazing attitude about it.
Oh, yeah. It's fun. Yes, it's Zardoz. Daniel, you must have felt me thinking about Zardoz today. I was like, should Zardoz be in the poll? Should Zardoz be in the poll? And then I didn't do it. Yeah, the headphones are the answer. The headphones are the god. These headphones are the answer to everything.
I just need to get a headset mic.
Okay, what about horror films? Big Carpenter fan and Suspiria. Those would be the two things I would reference if I was going to reference my love for horror. Is specifically Giallo, specifically Suspiria, and obviously Carpenter. I would say horror for us is a struggle because it is pretty vast. And I think when we like to narrow it down for ourselves, because it's always about like putting some kind of limitation. It's just funny that you say that because I keep wanting to branch out into some things that are a little bit more horror or thriller kind
Honestly,
of,
there's
and less sci-fi.
There's a really specific band that I'm super influenced by that already went the Giallo route,
Oh,
and
that's
that's
a
why
good
I don't
point.
go the Giallo route.
That's a good point.
That's really it
We
for
like
me.
to leave people in their niches and find our own, but it can be hard sometimes because we're all getting lit up by the same stuff. Yeah, sampling from horror. I think what they mean is, what about sampling from horror films? So I think that's really what it comes down to, is that like then that just opens us up
that's
too
what
much,
I'm talking about.
and we get too overwhelmed.
It's like I can't even deal with 2 genres of sampling.
I know. Oh, the old school hammer horror is the way to go, I think. That shit is terrifying, but in like a
really cool sounds though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, because again, if you're getting
I'm not trying to discount
the
sounds you can get from those films. I mean, it's like it's a really golden, really plush era for synthesizer sound effects.
Absolutely.
Like everything we're talking about sci-fi is actually better, I would say.
Yeah.
In the giallo genre, because like it's just that the era that it was recorded, it was like the prime of analog technology, and everything just sounds so thick.
Literally, because we have like one of the other DVDs we have is a giallo, and I almost put it on the list.
You get Goblin, bands like Goblin doing the soundtrack for something like Suspiria, and it's like just really cool music, and so like you can't. There's not the same thing didn't happen in sci-fi.
Yeah. This is sampling sci-fi is like part of that atmospheric tape loop making. So that was kind of.
But it's a gold mine if you're into studios, the instrument stuff.
But influence-wise, for sure, like we don't only like space stuff, but there's crossover. But it's like more that the experience of thinking about the expansiveness of space while we make music is so helpful and inspiring and like endlessly generative that I don't feel like I ever really need to go to horror for inspiration. But I will say on our first album, giallo was a huge influence, and one of the songs I even like scream as I'm dying. So
that's a good point.
If there is an actual horror song on our first album.
That is a good point. Yeah, that song and the one we were talking about.
There's a song called Nightmares. Like there's a lot of screaming on that album. I was having a lot of nightmares.
Yeah, and we were watching a lot of giallo films at that point. So
that's true.
Makes sense.
That's why some people say our music has like a haunted feeling.
And for those who aren't sure that term, it's 70s Italian, specifically Italian horror movies.
So Suspiria would fall into that category.
Like Suspiria, that would fall into that category. There's like a few directors that were kind of like putting it all out. And a lot of Ennio Morricone scores, really good stuff, really fun, cinema to watch.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, you guys got us going with that question.
Yeah.
Wow. We will be back. Okay, so yes, the whole point of this is that we'll be back tomorrow for 303 Fest, doing a completely different vibe than we have been lately, but one that we used to do on Twitch. So. Won't be that jarring for everyone. And I'm really excited because that kicks off really soon. Unfortunately, we can't raid into 303 Fest because it hasn't kicked off yet, but
unfortunately,
but we can, let's see, find a shrimp friend who's streaming and get things going, because we need to go prep for 303 Fest. We got some prep to do here, so
nah, I'm just gonna fly by the seat of my pants as usual. I'm gonna hit that randomized feature.
There we go. We're gonna do freestyle as usual, but it's gonna be like you've never heard before. So I'm excited. So those are gonna be just fun vibes to get us out of the funk of February and into the joy of spring.
Out of the February funk.
Yeah, I like February funk. I could raid into an offline channel if I really wanted, but just surf that through. I know exactly. The prep really comes down to like the machine needs to work, and there needs to be some things done so that it actually generates sound.
Like you better believe it. I'm just gonna be like,
yeah, this is gonna be the whole stream. I'm just gonna sit here while Augustus does this. You can't see the gear at all. Just the hands. And just me being like, yeah, I feel this. 2 hours. Oh my goodness. Space cadets.
And I didn't make any attempt to make a 303 like noise.
No, it's just white noise, wind whistling.
Whooshed. That was
just the mouth wind sounds. No sense exactly.
It was supposed to be surf.
Oh, that's so funny. Okay, we're gonna rate Sander Klepper, good friend who rates us from time to time. I'm always surprised and amazed. Thank you all for joining us for this amazing conversation with Nadia. I'm so pumped, as you can tell. We're really inspired by that whole conversation and glad that we could do it at noon today and that people could join who don't normally get to join. So, Unplugged 303, that's too funny, Durgan. We will see you all in the 303 Fest shenanigans, and we'll see you tomorrow at 3:30. We are going to announce something special during the stream tomorrow, so I'm excited for sharing that with you and getting to hang out in the 303 Acid Vibes. So have a great rest of your Thursday, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow for party time.